Sarah Lawrence College in Bronxville, New York, a short distance from Manhattan. It's a small but prestigious college. On the 21st of November, students started an encampment to protest their administration's failure to be open about the college's endowment fund investments, money which may be funding Israel's acts of genocide. We arrived on the third day of the encampment. There were about 20 tents, and we were told around 40 students bundle up and sleep in them at night. The tents were named after places in Palestine. You may remember the name Hind. She was the 6-year-old who begged for help after her family members were killed in their car. Israeli troops killed her too. Students there were concerned about repression and doxing and encouraged masking. Armand, who was masked, read out the student statement to the media.
Yonkers, New York, November 21st, 2024. On the 411th day of Israel's genocidal war on the peoples of Palestine, Lebanon, and Yemen, members of Sarah Lawrence College's community occupied Westlands and reclaimed it as Dar al-Fayoumi, in memory of 6-year-old Wadea al-Fayoum, a Palestinian-American boy who was stabbed to death by his landlord in Plainfield Township, Illinois on October 14, 2023. On October 15, 2024, Sarah Lawrence's Divestment Coalition of student groups submitted a revised version of their February 27, 2024 proposal for divestment from Israeli state violence to the Board of Trustees. The proposal outlined a timeline for divestment with a November 20th deadline for disclosure of the college's investment portfolio. On November 18, 2024, President Crystal Collins Judd announced over email that the board's investment committee had, quote, reviewed the proposal and the additional appeal letter submitted on November 16th and affirmed the college's investment strategy along with its previous conclusion regarding divestment and had made no recommendations for change, end quotation. Without consulting the rest of the board, the students, or anyone who is consistently engaged in our campus community, the investment committee chose not to disclose or divest. By refusing to disclose the contents of their investment portfolio, Sarah Lawrence's leadership has signaled their intention to wait out the will of the student movement and the global solidarity network that steers it. They assume that their complacency is a universal tendency rather than a moral aberration. We know that community members of good conscience cannot accept the investment committee's indifference while waiting for their tax dollars paid for genocide and scholasticide in this American war. The American government is forcing American workers to fund Israel's campaign of mass murder, manufactured famine, and environmental catastrophe because American companies, including Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Ford, General Electric, Caterpillar, and Northrop Grumman, are profiting from it. We call on the board to use their power as fiduciaries to do what the average taxpayer cannot. They must ensure that neither the size of our endowment nor the sustainability of our institution is dependent on the profitability of corporations whose very business models necessitate death. The brutality of the Israeli apartheid state has not changed, and neither have our demands. In 1985, the Board of Trustees understood that an institution of progressive learning cannot promote a framework of humanistic values and concern for community while financially supporting apartheid. They responded to campus pressure by voting to divest from all companies doing business in South Africa, describing their decision as, quote, a clear and public statement of the college's opposition to apartheid, end quote. In 2024, the Board of Trustees is choosing willful ignorance about our institutional responsibility to align our investment practices with the values inscribed in our mission statement and taught in our classrooms. The board has a unique opportunity to continue Sarah Lawrence's legacy of collaborating with the student body to uphold its core values by privileging solidarity, humanism, and dignity over ignorance, greed, and apathy. We must collaborate to set a precedent for our peer institutions by divesting and, in doing so, collectively signaling to firms like Common Fund that corporate war profiteers are high-risk investments. The Solidarity protesters intend to remain inside Dar al-Fayoum until Sarah Lawrence's leadership, 1, provides tangible evidence of communication with Common Fund and establishes an urgent timeline for disclosure, 2, pledges to protect Arab and Muslim students against harassment, 3, commits to amnesty for all those involved in the occupation, and 4, takes concrete steps to expand student and faculty input into decisions that impact the entire campus. To that end, We assert that this is a conversation between members of the Sarah Lawrence community, and we have chosen not to engage with media in order to prioritize negotiation and open conversation between students, faculty, staff, and leadership at this time. We will not be making statements to the press apart from this one. Any additional comments made on our behalf do not represent the intentions or views of the Solidarity protesters. This is a family conversation and a student-led movement born of love for the living, grief for the hundreds of thousands dead, and solidarity with the peoples of Palestine and Lebanon. The gift of their moral clarity and resistance amid the waking nightmare of occupation will never be repaid. Rather than fixating on our minor disruption of day-to-day life on a small campus, we encourage the press to dedicate their time and resources toward reporting on the Israeli campaign to disrupt and end the lives of men, women, and children of Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, and Iran, and pressuring U.S. legislators to support an end to the siege on Gaza and an arms embargo now. Thank you very much.